Hello and welcome back to the Star Family Wisdom podcast. I'm Jenna, your host. I'm the founder of Star Family Wisdom and also a former global vice president for Whole Foods Market. Star Family Wisdom is a paradigm shifting podcast for your spiritual and cosmic evolution. Here we explore our place in the universe and our expanding awareness on planet Earth. And I have recently been engaged in this just incredible transformation process. It's been incredible for a few years, but it's gotten even more incredible. And you've heard a little bit about that if you've been tuning in recently. And we're about to get back into some regular programming with some interviews. Our next show is with Eric Rankin, where we're going to be talking about his book, As Above, So Below, the quantum teachings of Jesus and his research in sacred sonic geometry. So this is going to be a really cool episode that connects some dots on what I've been doing recently, which is engaging the spiritual technologies of Jesus and the Holy Family, which were brought to the world by Saint Sri Kaleshwar in India. So as part of this massive transformation that's been going on, I am being guided to start a new podcast. This one's going to keep going. We're going to have Star Family Wisdom, where we focus on all of the cosmic things that we've been focused on. But the new podcast is called Supernatural Souls. And this is going to be an exploration of the energies and teachings and lives of the masters who have engaged these technologies and these exact spiritual practices. And I'll be interviewing lots of students and healers and people who have been connected to these masters, people who have engaged these practices themselves, so that we can have conversations about the divine energy channels that we can open and what's possible, and discuss the miraculous and bring those miracle energies, that level of harmony, that level of divine support into our lives. So that podcast is coming in July. And as part of the introduction to that podcast, I'm sharing a little bit more about my journey and my awakening and some of the lives I've accessed. I've touched on them off and on this podcast, but for those who are new and for those who are just curious to learn a little bit more about what I've remembered and accessed, I wanted to share kind of that background and use this episode to introduce you to supernatural souls. So this episode is the first episode of Supernatural Souls, where you'll get to hear about my journey from atheist to engaging Jesus's ancient holy practices, these ancient spiritual technologies, and how that whole journey really progressed. So this is a conversation just between us today, so you can learn a little bit more about me, learn about how I've navigated this journey, and ultimately what led to this new podcast. And I hope you'll tune into this podcast. It is a place where we will be able to hold a really sacred container of divine energies. So these conversations, just being in this energy with us, will be a beautifully transformative and healing experience for those who are part of it. So you can find the link to that YouTube channel, that podcast, in the show notes below. Go subscribe, get connected to it if you are interested in it, so you don't miss any future episodes. And you'll now hear a little bit more about my journey engaging these technologies, or finding these technologies, and what led me here ultimately. So enjoy, and I'll see you in the next episode with Eric Rankin, where we'll talk about his research. Welcome to the Supernatural Souls podcast. I'm Jenna, your host. I'm also a former global vice president for Whole Foods Market, a former atheist, and the founder of Star Family Wisdom, a modern-day mystery school for your spiritual and cosmic evolution. You're probably wondering how a former atheist ended up here, so we'll get into that soon. To make a long story short, I had some help from a very specific group of supernatural souls. And on this podcast, we explore the lives, teachings, and energies of these supernatural souls. In this group, we include Jesus Christ and Mother Mary, who you might be familiar with from the Christian religion, and also Shirdi Sai Baba and Sri Kaleshwar, two Indian saints of the Hindu tradition who helped to reveal the real life, teachings, and spiritual practices of Jesus and his disciples. Here we discover the intersection of Hindu spirituality with Christianity and learn about the lost history and lost spiritual practices that have finally been revealed. The story of this unlikely cast of characters teaming up to deliver the world's most advanced spiritual practices and spiritual technologies will be our focus. Because the supernatural is actually super common. It's just been misunderstood in many ways. In fact, Jesus remembered and activated his supernatural abilities in India with the use of powerful mantra and yantra systems, which were recently found in the ancient Indian Palm Leaf Manuscripts and brought to the world by Saint Sri Kaleshwar. It's not often you find a Jesus temple in an Indian ashram, but after accessing his own past life memories of living and working with Jesus, Saint Sri Kaleshwar accepted his mission to reveal the truth. Sri Kaleshwar took his Mahasamadhi and left Earth in 2012, but he left behind an extraordinary group of healers, students, and some of the most important knowledge in the world. Here we interview the followers and students of Sri Kaleshwar and Shirdi Sai Baba, welcoming the energy, love, and wisdom of these supernatural souls into our lives. Together, we'll discuss the teachings and practices that have been employed by many ancient and modern masters to gain the high divine, supernatural abilities that were once considered magic. So as we explore the lives and wisdom of these supernatural souls and their students, may we all remember ourselves as supernatural souls and embody the true teachings and wisdom of the many masters who have walked before us. So for our first episode, I want to take some time to just explain how a former atheist ended up here and what my journey has looked like as I have engaged in deep transformation and alchemical work, as I have worked to rebalance and harmonize my energy field, ultimately arriving at this incredible information that is contained within this lineage and activating the spiritual technologies that we can all activate for our own personal empowerment and for our healing, our collective healing. So I was atheist for the first 30 years of my life and very much closed off to our multidimensional reality, to any real understanding of spirituality or how, the mechanics of existence work. But I always was a little different. I always operated in ways that I guess seemed to be somewhat advanced because I moved up the ladder at Whole Foods Market at a really fast pace and in a way that, just wasn't totally logical. And as a young kid, there were some signs, I guess, that I had some extrasensory perception that was heightened or a little more turned on. But my parents were not spiritual, they were not religious. And, it largely was overlooked for a long time. And as I progressed at Whole Foods in my leadership career, I seemed to just know what to do. I seemed to understand things I had never been taught in this life. I seemed to know how to lead teams and individuals through large scale transformation and change, and just how to read the energy of a room and bring harmony to the organization, bring harmony to the teams I was a part of. So my leadership career progressed really quickly, and I became a global vice president by the age of 30. And I was quite confused by this for a long time. So what I recognize now is that I did have, some heightened, soul knowing, some soul power I was utilizing, these, heightened extra sensory perception that just allowed me to navigate that phase of my mission on Earth in a really intuitive way. And it wasn't until I became a global VP at Whole Foods that I went through a massive spiritual awakening. And I went through a dark night of the soul. I had a relationship end that triggered this extraordinary seeking, because I was feeling emotions that were so deep and so dark in some ways that I questioned everything about my life, because I had been married before. I had gone through the process of marriage and divorce, and what I was experiencing this time was at such a deep level that it made me question everything, and it made me wonder, why was this happening? Why now? And why with this person in particular? And as I started asking those questions, the answers started to arrive. So I asked those questions, and the information started to flow. I started receiving books, guidance that helped me understand more about our spiritual reality and the fact that we are souls in human bodies. And very quickly, information, wisdom was just like being downloaded. It's like my soul was remembering information it had just been closed off to for the first 30 years of its life here on Earth. And so I started wondering, I think maybe the reason I'm feeling this depth of emotion related to this certain situation is because I might have had a past life with this person. Well, by asking those questions, that triggered some of my first spontaneous supernatural experiences. And I should also share that, as I was progressing in my leadership career at Whole Foods Market, I was very much a person who just wanted to help. I didn't move up the ladder for the purpose of money or power or any of that. It was, seeing that there was a situation that could be better, that could be more harmonious, seeing that, teams maybe weren't receiving the right support to achieve their goals. And we all want to achieve our goals. We all want to contribute in ways that feel good to us. And we all want to, if we're working in teams, have that be the most harmonious experience possible. So I just always set that intention to help. And that's what led me to going for different leadership roles and ultimately getting them and then doing that work. So as I was doing that, though, I had major imposter syndrome. It's like my soul knew what to do and my soul could do it. And I was able to navigate a lot of large scale challenges. But I also was like so anxious and very much insecure in a lot of ways. So as I, progressed in my spiritual education, as this awakening occurred, I needed help reprogramming. I needed help quieting my mind. I needed help clearing anxiety that, had been just under the surface for so many years. And so I started a meditation practice, and that meditation practice, got me where I needed to go, but it took a while. It's one of those things where I think, we as humans, like the instantaneous results or the immediate gratification. And it took me a year to just learn how to turn my mind off. And once I finally did, though, and I was in that deep state of peace that's possible in meditation, I started experiencing spontaneous past life visions. And these were answers to questions that I had about the depth of emotion I was feeling related to this relationship and what was going on there. And I got answers. I saw, and these were, I should say, visions that were so instantaneous and so fast. And my mind had been completely still. It's not like my mind was running. It's not like I was thinking on things. These were visions that popped in so fast and so instantaneous, and I knew what they were. I knew who I was in the visions. I knew who the other people were. I knew who they were in this life and how this situation I was seeing and like re-experiencing quickly, how that connected to what was going on with my soul in this life. So that was the first time I learned, oh my goodness, I had a past life wound that had been activated multiple times in multiple lives that was reoccurring in this life, but this time for the purpose of me awakening to understand that pattern that had been playing out. So I started having these visions that gave me some answers and helped me question more about my reality. So all of a sudden I'm, exploring the nature of consciousness and understanding more about how our extrasensory perception works, the nature of psychic abilities. And then I started seeing future visions that ultimately played out. And then I started receiving messages at one point. And I know these were not my soul's guidance, my higher self, because when I was in this process of internal dialogue, which we all go through, right? We all have these moments of internal dialogue and stewing on something or that sort of thing. And I was in that place. I was stewing on something. I was being a little judgmental of someone else in my family, and stewing on something they had done. And as I was in that thought process, boom, this message came in and cut me off. It was like super direct, and it gave me guidance. And it basically said I was looking at the situation wrong, that I was being judgy and that I needed to look at it differently. So all of a sudden, I'm receiving these messages and I'm like, where's this coming from? Because whoever sent that to me did not disclose who they were at the time. And I, at this point, was far enough along in my spiritual studies and awakening to recognize that, okay, we have non-physical teams, we have guides and angels that are in spirit watching over, supporting us, but was that them? I guess that was them. It must have been a guide or an angel or maybe an ancestor, I don't know. And so I just tucked that away in the back of my mind, and I thought too, it was helpful, right? Like this was guidance that was loving and helpful and positive. So it shouldn't be something I'm afraid of. I should be open to it, it feels like. So I was open to it. And then that continued. And I still didn't get direct confirmation about where that was coming from, like who that was, like where was that guidance coming from? And then some interesting occurrences started to happen as I started to connect more with the topic of extraterrestrials and the idea that we're not alone. And I started finding information about people who said they had been abducted before. And I got curious, and I've always been curious. I've always, even as an atheist, closed off person, I had always been curious about life and space. And I'd always thought how like incredible it would be that we would be alone here. Like that seems completely impossible. But where's the proof? So in the first part of my life, I was just completely closed off to any other information that would help me understand my truth. So I'm starting to connect with these topics related to ETs and abduction cases, and I start having some of the most extraordinary emotional releases of my life. And I knew enough about the science of the mind at this point to understand that the human psyche can suppress information, especially when it is traumatic or so counter to our worldview, or something that we can't integrate in a healthy way. So I was having these major emotional releases related to extraterrestrials and these cases. And I thought, uh-oh, have I been a person that's had an experience? Like, what's going on here? Well, long story short, the spiritual awakening continues, and I start, having this like, pretty strong like knowing that I think my time at Whole Foods is coming to a close. And I should share that out of all of the clair abilities, claircognizance, clairaudience, clairsentience, I have them all to some degree. The claircognizance, just knowing information, has always been my strongest. So I'm, in this place of, just knowing that I've got some sort of connection here that needs to be explored, but I'm a little nervous. I'm scared because I don't know what it's going to be. And there's a lot of stigma, right? There's a lot of stigma around the topic of extraterrestrials, abduction cases. We are just now on Earth, opening up to our cosmic nature and what is possible, and the fact that we aren't alone. And so I'd always been curious. I'd always been questioning. And I was, having this knowing that I think I have some sort of connection with ETs, but where is this coming from and what is it? And oh my goodness, like this can't be happening. Like I've got a job, like I'm a global VP at Whole Foods Market. Like, come on, like no way. But one thing continues to progress after another. And I start thinking that I'm supposed to leave Whole Foods soon. I have this knowing about that too. And I'm contemplating that one day. And this is at the very end of 2019. And I'm contemplating my next year's goals and what, may unfold. And all of a sudden, I get another message that cuts me off and says, no, not yet. Your leadership will be needed next year. And I say, okay. And I also was having some major emotional connections related to ET topics at that time. So I'm all of a sudden like, okay, I heard the message, got it. What we didn't know at that time on Earth is that a few months later, the global pandemic would start, and that would wreak havoc on the retail industry, on all industries, on all, aspects of our life. And my leadership was needed at Whole Foods at that time. So I received very good guidance to stay at Whole Foods through 2020. And in 2020, I decided I needed a regression. I needed help from a therapist, regressing myself to a state where I could access past life memories, where I could access some level of information about my soul and these experiences I had been having, and why this extraterrestrial, kind of emotional thing, was happening. And so we go through with a past life regression, and very quickly it becomes clear that my soul is a soul who has had many experiences off Earth, that my soul was essentially programmed to not remember those for the first 30 years of my life. And then the opening would start to occur, and I would be able to integrate my soul's wisdom and my soul's past lives. And I accessed information about having had lives in extraterrestrial civilizations, and I accessed information about past lives in ancient Egypt and ancient Greece, where I was involved in mystery school initiation processes. More information related to that has, come forward for me as time has gone on. But in the later part of that regression, some other entities took over and started to speak through me. And now when you're in a past life regression, you're in one of the deepest states of trance that, is possible that one can get into, which allows for those sorts of channeling, processes to occur. So I'm in this regression, and at this point, I don't really remember much of this part of the regression because I was so deep in trance. And I share some of these regressions on the Star Family Wisdom YouTube channel because I think it's important to just peel back, the curtain on what's happening on Earth right now and what's possible, and how we can arrive, at these understandings of, who we are. So in this regression, some other beings talked through me, and these were souls who I have had connections with in other lives, souls with whom I'm really bonded. So in every life, we incarnate with a group of souls that we are most, heavily bonded with. And when those sorts of soul bonds are established, it facilitates telepathic communication. It facilitates, this heightened level of energetic connection. This is why mothers, have those knowings about their children, or maybe even telepathic, communication with their children. So these were souls who my soul is really familiar with, who my soul trusts, at a deep level. And these were souls who lived in an ET civilization. And they were getting in touch. They were picking up the phone to say hello and to remind me of my mission on Earth at this time, and to help me realize who I am as a soul, and to help me integrate that information that had been so very much missing for the first 30 years of my life, that had left me feeling alone and depressed and not quite sure what I was doing here on this planet, but very clear, in what I was doing at Whole Foods and being of service and, being a leader, but also confused. So all of a sudden I'm getting answers. I'm getting major answers to who I am and what my soul has experienced in other lifetimes. So a lot of the guidance I had been receiving, while some of it had been from the spiritual realm, not all of it had been from the spiritual realm. Some of it had been from souls who were in a different civilization that my soul has incarnated in. And in this life, there was a soul contract for the purpose of this time of transformation on Earth, for me to go through this awakening process, remember my ET self, my ET lives, that aspect of me, integrate it in a healthy way, recognize that we're not alone, and help others do the same, and ultimately awaken that multidimensional awareness of ourselves. So I've been in this process over the last few years of integrating these major experiences related to my soul and related to past lives and related to ancient wisdom on the planet. One of the past lives I've accessed was a lifetime in Alexandria, Egypt. This was after Jesus's time, I believe, and this was when the Library of Alexandria burned. I was not anyone important in that life, quote unquote important. We are all important. All souls are important, but you know what I mean. We all play different roles in different lives. And in that life, I was a messenger boy. I delivered written messages from the library staff to other important people in town. So I was connected to important people, but I, just had my basic job, and wasn't super educated, but I was connected to all of this wisdom. And I recognized the importance of the wisdom that was held in the Library of Alexandria. And in that life, I watched it burn. And I relived that in a past life regression. And oh my goodness, it was an extraordinary release. And what was interesting about that incident is, as my awakening had progressed, I had started to just frantically collect books, like in an almost unhealthy way. Like if I found a book that was almost, about to be out of print, or that was rare and expensive, I like felt this, this mission to save it. Like that's what was going on. So this past life trauma had been activated in my field for the purpose of completing the second part of my mission, but also for the purpose of, one, recognizing the importance of wisdom, two, recognizing what wisdom had been preserved on earth up until a certain point, and three, recognizing that the wisdom was coming back around for, this time of awakening on earth. So I accessed this past life and experienced this major moment, in history that was really deep for my soul. And I, should also say that up until this point, even though I've accessed a lot of my own soul's wisdom and I've integrated that and channeled, a lot of what, we're offering at Star Family Wisdom, and um, and I've, connected with, lots of traditions on the planet, there had still been this part of my soul that felt a little melancholy about what had been lost. And when you recognize, some of the major figures in history, like Jesus, who had such high divine supernatural abilities, there was wisdom that got him there, right? So where is that? And there's pieces of it, right, all over the globe. There's pieces of it in Egypt. There's pieces of it in South America, and there's pieces of it in India, right? But my soul had not yet felt really complete and whole and fulfilled in the idea that we had recovered it all. Because as humans, we've, experienced and done some of the most barbaric things possible, like burning books, like burning wisdom has to be the height of, barbarity, right? And so this journey that I've been on has, been about integrating these, past lives that I've accessed, utilizing the wisdom, the knowledge, the skills that, had been gained in those past lives to do what I'm doing now, but to also support spiritual initiation at the highest level, because we now know from our saint, master, guru, Sri Kaleshwar, that all of the wisdom was preserved. And so backing up a bit, I'm, in this process of thinking it's time to leave Whole Foods, and I got this guidance to stay during 2020. I go through my past life regression. I start accessing more past life memories and memories of, being off Earth, recognizing this telepathic connection that is formed with these other souls who I've known. And then I get told it's time to leave. So this whole time I'm, studying, I'm researching, I'm integrating, my soul's experiences that I'm having. And then it's time to go. It's time to actually fulfill this second part of the mission and use my leadership abilities in a new way. So I do. And then I get guided to Sedona. So I'm following this guidance the whole time. I'm following my soul's knowing, but I'm also following this guidance from this team of souls who I trust, who I have known, but I haven't met in this life. So I'm following this guidance. I get told, it's ideal for me to be in Sedona, which is a powerful energy vortex on the planet. So I I know what to do. I know that I need to release energetic ties to the first part of my life. I need to release energetic ties to all the stuff I'd been attached to. I need to open myself up to whatever's coming next. So I do. So I sell everything. I leave Whole Foods. I leave Austin, come to Sedona. And during this time, I'm also engaging some of the most advanced shamanic practices on the planet. And I get initiated into the Caro lineage of shamanism and get certified in energy medicine practices. And then I start, having this channeling experience happen with Star Family Wisdom. And the second part of my mission on Earth, which I was given guidance about during my regression, was related to bringing spiritual initiation processes to the world, to those who are ready, to people who are ready to really, go deep in their transformation and alchemy. So as I'm in Sedona, I'm doing this deep transformation and alchemy, and I say yes. I say yes to clearing all of the baggage, all of the karma, all of the programming, all the heavy stuff, that we come in with and that we take on. So, we're dealing with, multiple layers of distortion as humans right now on the planet, right? We're dealing with the collective distortion and trauma that has been exacerbated. We are dealing with our own past life patterns and traumas that need to clear. And if you're a soul who has had lots of other experiences in other places, and mostly has had experiences in other places, you're also clearing some, grief about, being detached from that in this life. So we've got, multiple layers that we're healing and clearing, and that's big work. And I said yes. I was like, I want to do it all. I want to go all the way. I know that's my mission. And so I do. So I start, in engaging in this, deep, deep karmic work, and start, experiencing all sorts of life events, people, situations that are just so out of left field, but we know why. It's karma. The karmic debt is coming around to be paid. So I'm just paying karmic debt after karmic debt, and clearing the karma, meeting these relationship challenges, recognizing where I had been operating out of balance, recognizing where my masculine and feminine energies were out of balance, and how to harmonize those, and utilizing all of the shamanic tools in my toolbox to do meditation journeys, to access past life wounds and rewrite the stories, to journey into the future, to see what is my highest cosmic destiny and how can I get there. And all the while, I'm having these interesting channeling experiences happen with Star Family Wisdom, where I'll just sit at the computer, and it's like my human self gets out of the way and information is just flowing. And we know, like, the flow state is where artists are creating, and we can be in these gorgeous channeling states. But this was my first time, like, really being conscious that, oh, there is an actual channeling process that's happening here, where other, my higher intelligence and other intelligences are working through me. So I allow that to happen, and I allow that to evolve, what's happening at Star Family Wisdom. And I'm also, really focused on deep reprogramming, because it's not just enough to, do the energetic level work, but we also have to do the mental reprogramming and rewiring. If we had been programmed for a highly limited experience of reality, we have to reprogram ourselves for an unlimited experience of reality. So I'm in this process. I'm doing that work, and 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 then I start meeting people who I've had major past life connections with. And I meet a man who I'd been married to multiple times in past lives, and we were able to validate for each other shared memories, because he's a person who has also been able to access past life memories. So all of a sudden we're having shared memories and validating this for each other. And that life was important for the purpose of what we are talking about with this divine lineage and the divine births that are possible, and the way in which a woman can clear her womb chakra to be a powerful energy channel, but also be a powerful portal to bring through a divine soul. So in ancient Greece, I had multiple lifetimes in priestesshoods where I was engaged in divine birth practices, where I was actively with my partner. This was at a point where the patriarchal control had creeped in, and the very pure divine birth practices of a woman um, uh, engaging that kind of fertilization process without a man were no longer happening. So this was partnered, with a partner, but this was still a divine birth process to bring high level supernatural souls to earth. So I'm meeting these people who I've had past lives with, where there was maybe some aspect of trauma that needed to be cleared, but also some aspect of really important information about why I would then encounter the practices, teachings, and spiritual technologies of Jesus and the Holy Family. So in late 2022, I've gone really far in this work, and I've been really focused on that energetic union, that divine union within, that merging of the masculine and feminine energies, and my Kundalini energy awakens. And so then, I'm in this process of learning how to work with that. And I also am having some flashbacks to ancient Egypt, and this channeling process just is taking over. And all of a sudden, this spiritual initiation course, guided by goddess Isis, connecting us to the Syrian star system, utilizing the Syrian star system as a binary star system to balance our masculine and feminine energies, was channeling out of me. And there was also an extraordinary event that happened in a meditation where I re-experienced myself in the king's chamber of the pyramid, in the sarcophagus, getting transported out of that pyramid to another pyramid. So I am having these flashbacks, these memories that are relevant to ancient Egyptian spiritual initiation processes, that are just like infusing themselves into this course. My Kundalini energy is awakening and activating. And then I have a series of extraordinary synchronicities related to a red rose. So when I was a child, I had a recurring dream of a red rose for multiple years, over and over and over. And as an adult, it always stuck with me. And I always thought, that was so strange. Like, why would I have a recurring dream of a red rose in space over and over and over and over? And I went through a second regression last year because I had major questions about that dream. As time went on, as more and more of my memories, had come back to me, it seemed just, highly odd that would be just a dream. So I asked one of the highest level professionals in the regression field to support me in going back to that dream. So she regressed me back to the first night of that dream. Long story short, That was not a dream. That was symbology. That was a screen memory that was implanted there to help me connect some dots at a later date. And those dots got connected very immediately after that regression. So it became clear that from the regression, the red rose was symbolizing the star system my soul is most familiar with. It was symbolizing me and some of what I would be doing in this life. And it was a screen memory for some contact that had been occurring at that time that was, not something I could integrate, at that age. So very quickly after this regression, another series of wild synchronicities happens related to the red rose. And I very quickly see in my email an email from Marguerite Rigoglioso. We interviewed her on the Star Family Wisdom podcast, so go check that out. And she's offering a course about Mary Magdalene. I immediately know, okay, yeah, I need to take her course. So I sign up for it. And she starts talking about Sri Kaleshwar because, she's a researcher and author. She's done amazing research on divine birth practices and the divine feminine in history. So, if you want to go deep on, understanding the role of the Marys in Jesus's life, the role of divine birth practices, go, research her work. But she starts talking about Sri Kaleshwar because she has found his work, integrated it. Sri Kaleshwar wrote a book called The Real Life and Teachings of Jesus Christ. And it's based off of some of his own past life memories of times with Jesus, but also the information he uncovered in the ancient Indian Palm Leaf Manuscripts, revealing evidence of Jesus's time in India, revealing the actual technologies and practices that were utilized by Jesus and the Holy Family. So Marguerite is starting to incorporate this into her work, and I have this strong knowing, oh, I need to go find him. I need to find his work. So I do. And start engaging the practices, start the process. And one thing, leads to another. And all of a sudden, I'm really deep in a lot of processes and mantras, and they feel familiar to my soul. I'm moving through them quickly, and for the most part, the Telugu language is kind of rolling off the tongue. It's moving along. I'm moving through it, and I'm also feeling this. We have them here, so let's say hello. I'm also feeling this deep familiarity with Sri Kaleshwar. I'm like, oh, I feel like I know you. I recognize you. I recognize your humor, and I recognize your eyes, and there's something about your energy that I resonate with. And so I'm establishing this connection with Sri Kaleshwar, and I'm going, deep in these practices like I've been doing so far, right? I'm following the guidance, I'm following my soul's knowing, I'm going all in at all costs. I'm going all in. And all of a sudden, I start feeling and kind of hearing this guidance that I'm supposed to go to India, that I'm supposed to go to the ashram where Sri Kaleshwar developed his school, and where he lived, and where Jesus lived. And I'm like, really? I've been guided to do a lot of stuff, in this journey since I left Whole Foods. Am I really being guided to India now? And I'm thinking, okay, should I go alone? How would this work? What's the plan? And then it keeps coming. It's like, you got to get to India. You need to get to India while you're charging these mantras. It's important. And I'm like, okay, fine, I'll go. So I reach out to the ashram and I'm like, what are the odds, of maybe like the first week of April? I've got that week open. They say, yeah, you're going to be the only student here, but come, we'll show you around. And I'm thinking, okay, let's do this. Let's go. We're going all in again. And so I'm, once again in this place of just ravenously, absorbing information, reading books. I'm like reading all the books I can get my hands on, reading the transcripts of his workshops, taking courses by the Divine Mother Center. And I'm, having this overwhelming feeling again of, wow, yeah, this is like familiar to my soul. Like my soul knows I'm supposed to be doing this. And so I go to India, but I forget to apply for a visa. so I'm all of a sudden, working with Sri Kaleshwar and his master Shirdi Sai Baba. And as a young man, Shirdi Sai Baba came to Sri Kaleshwar in spirit and started guiding him. And Sri Kaleshwar at first was like, are you sure? But then did it, then followed the guidance. And so I'm connected now with Shirdi Sai Baba and Sri Kaleshwar, and I'm preparing to go to India, but I've forgotten my visa. It's the day before. I had not yet remembered this. I'm in meditation and I get a message again, don't forget the visa. And I'm like, uh-oh. So I very quickly get online and I start thinking, oh my goodness, like what are the odds of me, getting this visa in time to go? And should I delay? Like what's happening? But then I pause. I remember trust. I remember faith. I remember asking for help. And so I do. I pause. I get myself into a trusting place, and I just affirm for myself, if this is supposed to happen, if I'm meant to go to the ashram, if I'm meant to go further with this work, it'll happen. So I'm applying for the visa, and I start asking for help. I start asking, Shirdi Sai Baba and Sri Kaleshwar. I'm like, guys, I need your help. I need my whole team's help. I think I'm supposed to go to India. I need your help getting there. And that night, the Divine Mother Center had posted an Abhishek, a holy bath with Shirdi Sai Baba. So I'm tuning into that. I'm watching. I'm connecting. I'm praying. I'm just holding the intention that everything's going to be good. If this is meant to happen, it's all good. So the next morning, I'm getting on the bus to go to the airport, and boom, the visa comes through. So it took some help getting there. There were multiple instances of needing to call on Sri Kaleshwar and Shirdi Sai Baba and ask for that help from the divine to allow for the right order to occur in the physical. So as I'm going to the ashram, I realize it's Easter weekend. The ashram staff has said that they are putting on a Zoom program for remote students, for international students, where everyone can do meditation with Sri Kaleshwar's samadhi, his grave site, and with the Shiva Lingam power object. There's a power object at the ashram that is said to have been in Pinukonda at Jesus's time, and there have been some really powerful divine experiences that have happened with that. And so there's this online program that's getting set up where students will be on Zoom able to connect with those spots, and the ashram staff says, do you want to join? And I, of course, I'm there, and clearly this seems planned to some degree that I would be there that weekend to be able to have this dedicated meditation time. And I start having some of the most powerful energetic experiences of my life, and I'd already had a lot of really powerful energetic experiences and had integrated them. And and these were, so overwhelming and consistent from what I understand, from a lot of students, time with Sri Kaleshwar at the ashram or engaging the practices. There's, a level of divine energy that gets harnessed that can just put you in a trance state, or just take you into a place where you need deep integration time, where you're operating in a really altered state. And so I was operating, in this really altered state at the ashram, and received what felt like these very powerful energy transmissions from the Shiva Lingam object statue and from the samadhi. And so I'm getting this initiation. I'm getting this activation and this initiation so that this connection can form, and so that I can incorporate this lineage and these practices into the work I'm doing with Star Family Wisdom, and to be able to open a more clean telepathic connection with Shirdi Sai Baba and Sri Kaleshwar, which I didn't realize until I got to the ashram. So this is the place I ended up in earlier this year, after this extraordinary journey of awakening and integrating past life experiences and rewriting wounding and reprogramming, and ultimately doing that work to arrive at a place of harmony in my energy field. And since I got back from the ashram, there's been a series of guidance that continued to unfold, that has led me to this place that we are in today, that has led to this podcast being birthed into the creation, and is leading to what will be some really powerful and high energy and transformative and healing conversations. And ultimately, Sri Kaleshwar had the mission of bringing these spiritual technologies to the world that are meant for the purpose of us becoming enlightened humans, for us becoming the new human, the human that is free of all of the negative programming and the traumas that have occurred on Earth. And his mission was to create as many masters as possible in the world. And it feels important to help all of the advanced souls who are coming to Earth right now, all of the Starseeds, all of the souls who have been doing deep work, over lifetimes, to arrive at, this point in time where we can engage in some deep karmic clearing. When we change eras on the planet, that is a time of karmic completion. That is a time when we should be engaging these sorts of technologies to clear the deck of all of the stuff we've been carrying, so that we can get off the karmic wheel, so that we can continue our life experiences, so that we can go on to other life experiences in other places if we choose, or, to have a more divine experience in our next life, a more harmonious experience in our next life. So I recognize that now is a really important time on the planet for this information to continue to be shared. And what I'm recognizing too, as I've engaged these practices and established this connection, and started studying what is available from this lineage, there are incredible healers and students who have gone deep in understanding Sri Kaleshwar's teachings and what he attempted to deliver the world, which was this chance at freedom, this opportunity to be free of the dramas of the human experience, and ultimately to allow that level of mastery to flourish so that we can reharmonize this planet. And so it feels important that I play my part in that in whatever way that I can. And given some of the spiritual initiation, practices I was engaged in past lives and that I've already integrated into Star Family Wisdom, it seems like a natural evolution that this would be the next level initiation people can go through. So at Star Family Wisdom, we offer a lot of amazing, foundational tools and support for people. Sacred geometry is one of them. That's an amazing tool to support us harmonizing our energy field. And in the divine lineage and Jesus's practices, yantras, sacred geometry are incorporated. So I'm, recognizing that everything that has unfolded up until this point was so purposeful for this podcast, these conversations to come to life in the world and to just introduce people if they're ready, or help reconnect people with their tribe, the energies, the teachings, the love of the masters who have walked before us. Anytime we engage in these sorts of conversations and hold sacred space, hold a container for wisdom, we all heal and transform. So my goal is that this is a sacred container for us. This is a place to land where you can reconnect with your memories. You can reconnect with your, love for our masters, to all of the masters who have walked before us, and a place where we can all see ourselves as supernatural souls too, and where we can all allow ourselves to come into that knowing. Because if you're here, you are one of those souls. If you're here, engaged in this, interested in this, you're engaged in huge karmic completion processes right now, and we're all being called to carry a higher frequency, a higher vibration as Earth herself shifts and evolves. And these are, the technologies, practices that allow us to do that, allow us to actually raise our vibe, allow us to actually open up divine energy channels and fast track, our healing process. So I'm deeply honored and grateful to be connected to the lineage and to have been called to the ashram in India, and to have, received the initiation I've been through so far. And through these conversations on the podcast, we'll talk about how you go through that initiation process. Which practices do you start with? What are some good tips and your ways to move through these processes that help us navigate it in the highest way possible? We'll talk about the energy of Sri Kaleshwar and Shirdi Sai Baba and the miracles they've performed, and remind ourselves of what's possible, and remind ourselves that the supernatural is actually natural, right? We've created a situation on Earth where it doesn't seem natural, but it is the natural working order of the universe. So on this podcast, we will integrate and honor and welcome the supernatural into our lives, and we'll hear from extraordinary people who have integrated the wisdom and energy of these masters into their lives, and we'll use this as a space to be in divine energies together. So as I said, this is a sacred space. We hold this space in protection. We hold the highest intentions for healing and transformation, and for all who are involved, all who are listening, to receive, experience, embody unconditional love and joy in their lives. because that's what's possible. And we're all just here to remember how to make that possible in our lives. So thank you for being here. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for hearing part of my story. That was an attempt at a high level overview of what I've experienced and how I got here, how I got from atheist to now engaging the spiritual technologies of Jesus and the Holy Family. So, with that, we'll wrap up for today. And I hope you join again for our next podcast, where we'll be having a beautiful conversation with Alan Steinfeld and hearing about his time at the ashram and his time knowing Swami Saint Sri Kaleshwar and some of the miraculous occurrences that he witnessed. So if you found this engaging, interesting, if you want to tune in, hit subscribe if you're on YouTube, leave a comment, rate and review so that others can find this podcast, and tune in every week. We're going to try to get an episode out every week, maybe every other week. We'll see how things go. We're going to stay in the divine feminine flow as this evolves. But tune in, come back, and let's be in community together here and hold a container for these divine energies for the world. I'll see you next time on the next episode. Bye for now.